Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I should have said viewers, listeners, readers. This is Matt Matera's new thing, Scott. I don't know if you know it.
I know,
but
yeah.
He's got a new thing going on, and it's throwing me off now because I've been doing this for a year, and now it's like I got to relearn how to do this. But anyway, Matt's right. It should be viewers as well because most of you are watching us live on YouTube on the Pewter Report podcast. We are excited about it. I'm John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. Along with me, Scott Reynolds of pewterreport.com as well. And man, it's good to be back on the show with you, Scott. It has been few and far between that we've been able to be on the podcast together over the past couple months because of your voice. But It's been fun to get back into the swing of things with the Bucs. And I know you've been hard at work covering training camp while I was taking a little vacation time.
Yeah, it was fun to be out there. Unfortunately, the rain kept some of the media out today, including myself, because there's limited media spots available when they go inside. So you were in there today, and you're going to be telling us all about training camp. I'll offer up my insights from what I've seen so far. And, we can also talk about a very revealing press conference by Bruce Arians today. I think he made a lot of news in that. Usually he's not as forthcoming, but today he kind of was. Thought there's some pretty good quotes we'll get to.
Yeah, for sure. He's always interesting. You never know how much news there'll be, but there'll always be some things you're like, wait, what did he say? And what does that mean? Yeah. Like, wait a minute. So there was some of both, I think. I'll talk about the thing that I believe is just, I don't really get. There's a controversy right now that seems to be brewing, and the coaches have kind of spurted on maybe a little bit, and I don't get it within the Bucs lineup right now. But first, we got to recognize our friends over at Celsius for the amazing, wonderful beverages that they make. I've got the classic orange here, the classic sparkling orange, Scott.
That's my favorite. You know that.
Yes, this is your favorite. I love it as well. This is one of my wife's favorites. So I was telling people yesterday, if you tuned into yesterday's podcast, you know that we had to make the drive back from Pennsylvania to Tampa Bay and did it through the night.
Was that a drive fueled by Celsius, John?
It was fueled by Celsius.
By Celsius?
Look, I'm telling you, in the car door next to me, there were just 4 Celsius, like straight out of the fridge before we left, ready to go, just pop it. And at one point, I think I just had Celsius for like a 6-hour span. I just drank Celsius. I hadn't eaten anything. So I had to stop, get something to eat so I didn't pass out or anything. But no, it was great. I mean, it fueled me. And honestly, I drove through the entire night, and I had no issue driving through the night because of Celsius. So it saved us. It was great.
Let's rewind a little bit here. You were not, by any stretch of the imagination, an energy drink guy whatsoever. Before Celsius came aboard as a sponsor, and you tried it for the first time, and you're, I don't want to say an addict. That's maybe not the right word, but an aficionado. How about that? How about a Celsius?
Yeah. I mean, right. And I think my family, and then what's cool is like I've been able to turn on so many other people to Celsius because of this, like so many friends and family. And I mean, I had so many Celsius conversations up in Pennsylvania, and I brought cans. And so people were able to get some sampled that they hadn't before, ordered some for themselves. So it's just been fun to see the culture kind of come up for this. And Bucs fans, you've been a big part of that as well. So if you're looking for more Celsius or to try some more flavors, go click on those Celsius banner ads at pewterreport.com. Go to Celsius.com, use the you can get Celsius near you so that you can enjoy yourself some of these fresh variety flavors with no sugar, but lots of essential energy, helps you burn body fat, accelerate metabolism, do all that good, healthy stuff over at Celsius.com. All right, Scott, today's Bucs practice, I mean, it was not nearly as entertaining as Monday, but that isn't –
Whoa.
I mean, that's –
Hold on here. Hold on. Okay. Who was the starting quarterback today?
Today, the starting quarterback was
Gabbert.
It was Ryan. Oh, yeah, it was Blaine Gabbert. You're right. Yeah,
it's Blaine Gabbert. Okay.
Is that a Celsius?
So,
that's his problem right
Celsius.
there.
Probably not, but that might be
a Celsius.
Good number 2 behind Brady. I'm not.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
That might be. Yeah. But listen, I mean, look at that man. That's a beautiful man there. I mean, the Buccaneers might have the best quarterback room from a looks perspective, right? When you got Tom Brady, who's a handsome devil himself, right? And Blaine Gabbert, and then you got Ryan Griffin.
That's a good
Kyle
point.
Trask, I'm just saying it's,
Team handsome.
GQ, let's do a photo shoot, right? I mean,
that's right.
Then these guys can play too. I mean, we'll get to Blaine in a minute, but obviously Tom Brady, the GOAT at age 43, comes down to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl MVP, 43 touchdowns at age 43. What can this guy do for an encore, John?
Yeah, I mean, it was no Brady at practice today, so there was obviously going to be a little bit of a lull in terms of energy, momentum, and some things like that. But it was supposed to be that way, I think, today. I mean, it was the first hour of practice was pretty slow, but it was good teaching reps, some more individual time, some walkthrough time. There wasn't quite as much fast-paced stuff as there had been the day before. That's kind of how these things work sometimes. But, man, it was good work still. I mean, you still got to see a lot of good things from several players. We'll get to some of the biggest takeaways, but I'll start at the quarterback position because I really wanted – what did I tell you early in the practice? Because Gabbert was struggling, and it wasn't necessarily the best we've seen from him. And there's been kind of this seesaw with him the last couple of days, lots of interceptions, some good throws. Sometimes he holds onto the ball too long. There's always that mixed bag. But it really wasn't like – 2 days ago, Cal Trask made the most of his opportunities. He only got a few reps, Scott, but – 2 dimes down the field. I don't think the ball touched the ground very often. And then today was just, the opposite. He was just terrible today. Like, he really struggled. He had
like
the worst interception.
Yes, to be expected sometimes.
He had a throw to the far sideline that it was the same kind of throw that got him in trouble in college, got him the interception against Alabama when they played at Florida. It was that kind of long throw to the sideline where he doesn't open up and drive the ball as much as he should. Just floated. Nate Brooks, who God love the man, but it has been a brutal training camp. Yeah. He's not. Yeah. And he broke on the ball and got there so early. He was actually early to the ball.
Pick six, John?
No, he dropped it. It was the easiest catch of his life. I know. It was Nate. But it was like one of those things where even when it goes well for Nate, it can't go well enough right now for him. But John, I dropped the pick six.
John, let me stop you on that point there. You're talking about Trask and that throw, and we saw that pick six against Florida, right? Not against Florida, against Oklahoma in the bowl game, right? Same type of throw is that play?
Yeah, it was pretty much exactly the same type of throw, I think.
Okay, and you know what? Was it the same throw that Brady threw a pick six to in New England and also at Raymond James Stadium against the Chargers, that those pick sixes, right? That's a staple throw in this Bruce Arians offense, and we didn't see it maybe as much as we did earlier in the season because Brady even had some difficulty with that throw with getting the timing down with the receivers.
Yeah, I think Brady's issue was solely was a lot of the receivers. As Justin Watson didn't really play after the Saints and Chargers games in large part because of exactly. So I think that was a big part of it, but also mechanically, I thought it was interesting. I actually brought this up yesterday. Paul Atwell for us wrote a piece that just recently ran on Pewter Report that he talked to a quarterback's mechanics expert, and the mechanic expert said the one throw that he thinks would have been considerably harder and more painful for Brady to make with that MCL that he was playing on would have been throws where he had to open and throw to the boundary on out routes and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. It was never an arm strength issue for Brady, and honestly, it's not an arm strength issue for Kyle Trask either. It's a mechanics issue. Some guys can make the throw with all arm, and so it doesn't matter if the mechanics are great.
Right.
Trask's arm isn't good enough to do it without great mechanics. Right, exactly. Mahomes is one. So he just needs to get that right. It doesn't mean they can't be things that are cleaned up, but I say all that to just say that I don't think Trask really sees the moment to take advantage of Gabbert's kind of up and down play. But none of it matters, right, Scott? Because Jason Light and Bruce Arians think Blaine Gabbert is amazing. Every time
they do.
They're talking about, it wasn't Tom's best day, blah, blah, blah. Blaine Gabbert.
Well, you know what, John?
Gabbert could be an all-pro, Scott. I'm going to tell you. Look at this.
It's not just Bruce Arians and Jason Light that have an affinity for the guy. I'm kind of in that same boat. It is. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a football man crush on Blaine Gabbert. That's okay. This is what Bruce had to say today because I asked him point blank. I said, you didn't have Brady today. It's his birthday. He's 44 today. Got the day off, which, that's what you want and expect as a 44-year-old quarterback to at least not work on your birthday. So I asked Bruce about his level of comfortability with Blaine if, and I knocked on wood, if something were to happen to Tom Brady long term and they needed Blaine to quarterback this team and get into the playoffs, did he have confidence that he could do that? Now, to preface this, when you and Mark Hook had Bruce on the show before on the podcast, he talked about Blaine Gabbert, called him the most underrated player in the NFL. When we had Jason Light on it for the Super Bowl, he was talking about Blaine being in the mix as Brady's possible successor. That's down the road. We'll see. But this is what Bruce had to say today about Blaine Gabbert. My confidence is off the charts. I know how good Blaine is. I mean, he was on fire today. Now, you're going to take exception to that, John, reading your practice report, and that's okay. He knows where the ball should go. When it should go there, he can make every throw. Now, sometimes he's got so much talent, he tries to fit one in a tiny little window, but that's usually a practice to see if he can get it in there. He's got wow-ya talent, and he knows this offense inside and out. So I have all the confidence in the world. So that's some pretty lofty praise right there.
He loves him. I mean, it doesn't get more lofty when he said he was the most underrated player in the league. So, I mean, at this point, I'm not surprised by anything. I barely batted an eye at this. And I watched Blaine Gabbert every rep in practice. To say that he was on fire today is mildly, to put it mildly, quite funny. I don't think he was horrible today by any stretch, by the way. But there was nothing today. It was not a change for Blaine Gabbert in terms of but anyway, it's just that's what they clearly really like him. Whatever the reason is, I hope when he gets in a game that he kills it. I don't think he was terrible today. I think he's fine as a backup in the NFL. If you lose your starter in the NFL, quarterback, you're screwed. So, I mean, it's not really a big deal to me. I did kind of hope, Scott, that this would be a competition between he and Cal Trask. I thought it could make both of them better if it were a competition. It is not a competition. We just need to kind of be real about that, I think, with fans. So far, 2 weeks into training camp, this has not been a competition at all. Ryan Griffin is getting the 3, or today was with Brady out. It was the number 2 reps, snaps. Yeah, he's getting the backup reps. He's getting way more reps than Cal Trask, or at least has the last couple of days. I'm assuming it was that way the first week of camp as well. But it's clearly Trask is going to have a roster spot. I don't think that's in question. But right now he is being eased in. It is baby steps. He is getting less reps than everybody else. They do not view it as a competition at this point in time.
Not at all. And that's something Jake Arians even talked to us about on the podcast over the summer was, I think you asked the question, should Kyle Trask or would Kyle Trask compete for that number 2 spot this year?
Yeah.
And Jake said, no, not this year. Now, next year, you want him to be in the mix. Next year, with a year's worth of development behind the scenes, learning the offense, you want that to happen. But as it stands right now, and I've said this before on a podcast, I think while you were gone, John, it's kind of crazy, but this team is going to keep their 4th string quarterback, Kyle Trask, on the roster because of his draft status as a late 2nd round pick. You can't afford to put the guy on the practice squad because there'll be too much intrigue. A team will sign him as their number 3. But the real number 3 on this team is going to be Ryan Griffin. So what happens if there's an injury to Blaine Gabbert or Tom Brady and they need to make a quarterback move? Well, what you're going to see at that point in time is you're going to see Ryan Griffin come off the practice squad and be the backup or the number 3, depending on who's out, ahead of Kyle Trask, who's on the roster and will be on the roster this whole year. So in essence, your 3rd string quarterback will be on the practice squad. Your 4th string quarterback will be on the 53-man roster this year.
So you think I know we're not ready to say for sure but you think if an injury were to somehow befall Brady and Gabbert, that even Griffin would play in a game over Trask as it currently stands, at least?
As it currently stands, if the Bucs were in it, yes, that's the case. If the season went just disastrously wrong, then I think you might look at developmental time on the field for Trask. But
that would be tough. It would be tough for me to see Griffin play. I mean, I'm not saying it would be wrong. I just, if you're Trask and you can't beat out Griffin, whoa, buddy. And right now, Griffin's just, yesterday it was horrible.
Yeah.
Griffin was okay today, Scott. It was fine. It wasn't a big deal. He made a couple of good throws, honestly.
Right.
Avoided turnovers a little bit more. The disaster moments weren't there as much today. Checked it down a lot. He did what he had to do, I think, a little bit more than he did in the past. But, the bottom line is I don't want to spend too much time talking about the quarterback room. It's just that I wish Kyle Trask I don't know whether he is or he isn't. I would say that what I've seen so far, it's I'd just like to see more of him. But I just wish it were considered a competition right now. You took the guy in the 2nd round. You thought about taking him in the 1st round. They said anyway. I feel like he should be allowed to compete for a backup quarterback spot in the NFL. I don't think that's asking too much of the guy to be able to do that. They don't think he's ready for that, I think.
Right. And not just that. They've not really given him the opportunity to be ready, John. They have not given him number 2 reps. They have not given him, aside from the field 2 work, which was in the first week of training camp. He just hasn't gotten the reps. So they've not put him in position to be able to compete for the number 2 or number 3 job just because of that. And plus, too, you've got Ryan Griffin, this is year 7 in the league for him with the Bucs.
The longest tenured Bucs quarterback.
Longest tenured Bucs quarterback. It's crazy, right? And he's played in one half of a game, just a couple of series. But this is a guy that's in his 3rd season of Bruce Arians' offense. So, to me, I don't see where Trask will have the opportunity to. Now, if he lights it up in the preseason, maybe that changes things. He's going to get a lot of playing time. This will be the Kyle Trask preseason. There will be a lot of playing time for him in the preseason. Guys like him, and other players too that I'm excited to see. Guys like Sneak Vaughn, right? I mean, we're going to see a lot of Sneak Vaughn in the preseason. Tyler Johnson, Jaelon Darden. A lot of these wide receivers that Bruce Arians was talking about today. Jaden Mickens is going to get a case to maybe beat out Tyler Johnson for a spot on the depth chart. Tyler Johnson was on the team last year, so was Jaden Mickens in that return role, but that's going to go to Jaelon Darden this year. So it might be a thing where Tyler Johnson, he didn't come into training camp in great shape. Bruce Arians called him out on it. He admitted it today. I think Matt Matera has an article up on PewterReport.com that
check that out for
roster spot. Yeah.
Right. Check that out for fans for sure. Let's talk about Tyler Johnson in a second here, but I do want to just backtrack real quick and talk about how we are discussing it has been months, maybe almost a year since I discussed something the Bucs did that I really didn't like. I just mentioned one thing there. I'm just going to go for it and mention a second. I don't understand why Alex Kappa, Aaron Stinney is being talked about as an open competition. I mean, Alex Kappa is not the type of person that needs extra motivation. That's like your biggest grinder on your team. Tough guy, hard worker. He's transformed his body. He's all in on football. It's not like you're sending a message. I dismissed that idea. So like, what is the point? I mean, anybody who really studied those playoff games, I think saw that Aaron Stinney survived. And I think what he did was admirable. And it was a performance that should be applauded, but he survived. He was not, Alex Kappa thrived this past season. He was very good this past season. I'm not saying he was Pro Bowl worthy or anything like that, but he's a very good guard. And they're just serious physical limitations with Aaron Stinney that I don't think he can necessarily fix. Like, he is not the ideal size or athleticism for that position. And he's not like this technical genius that's made up for it either. I mean, he fights and he scraps, but like,
he's a scrapper. Yeah.
Alex Kappa is going to be the starter, Scott. Like, why are we doing that? Why? Bruce Arians asked about it today. He's like, I think Stinney's really pushing him. It's going to be a great competition. I'm like, come on. Like,
I think it's just coach speak, just to get being, you know why I said it, because there's no harm in saying it, right? There's no harm in giving Alex Kappa a little bit of a push, but Kappa doesn't need a push. And the reason why is because he's in a contract year. That should be all the push that you need, right? Coming off of a broken ankle. You helped on the Super Bowl run last year for sure, but you didn't play in the Super Bowl. So you've got motivation to try to get back so you can actually play in the game this year. I think that's a part of it. But the interesting thing too that Bruce said was he wishes that Stinney was a better snapper. I think that they'd love to see him cross train at center, because really it's been Robert Hainsey, the 3rd round pick, who's been the backup center and the starting center when Ryan Jensen's out.
Has Stinney, in my 2 practices, Stinney hasn't even taken a rep at center that I've seen anyway.
I've not seen him take a rep there. The 3rd string center has been Donnell Stanley from South Carolina.
That's who it was today.
But the thing is, I think that ideally they'd love for him to do that, but it's like Bruce said, once he starts getting a couple snaps, then you have one that flies right over the quarterback's head, and you just can't do that. So
exactly right. Here's what
I think they would love for him to be more trustworthy in that area, because then he would have more value as a guy that can cross train between center and guard.
Right, and activity on game day. I mean, if Robert Hainsey can play all 3 spots and Stinney can't, then there's a pecking order in some ways. Although both should be active, I think. Here's what Bruce said today. Cap looks like he's full speed. He's not holding back at all. He looks fine. Aaron Stinney's putting a lot of pressure on him. Stinney played really well when he got his opportunity last year. I wish he could snap the ball better. He snaps it really, really good, and then all of a sudden one goes flying over the quarterback's head. Aaron is a solid player too, so there's always competition. I get it. I mean, he's not saying like, oh yeah, Aaron Stinney might start, right? But I mean, that's what he's suggesting. Right. And I don't know that I quite get it. Maybe they're a little bit. It seems to me the indication is that Alex Kappa might not be a priority next year in free agency, but we'll see. I mean, one great year could change that, and who knows how much his coach speak. Creating the controversy to me seems silly at this point.
When you look at it, and I've talked to people in the front office, right? It's all about the financial hierarchy. And right now they've got three guys that make $10 million or more on that offensive line, right? You've got, the $10 million center and Brian Jensen. You've got Ali Marpet, who makes a little bit more as a Pro Bowl caliber left guard, and you got a left tackle who makes a little bit more than Marpet does in Donovan Smith. So you already got three guys that are making $10 million or more. So it's going to be hard to justify paying a fourth one. And they do like having Stinney as a possible fit in there. If Kappa does depart, they can maybe get by with the year with Stinney and then draft the guy and bring in competition. So we'll see how it goes. I think the future right now, though, at center looks like it's Robert Hainsey. I thought he might be a guy that would see more time at guard and maybe be in that mix to possibly replace Kappa next year. But I've yet to see Robert Hainsey take a lot of snaps at guard. It's mostly been at center.
Yeah, it has been, and he wasn't out there today, and so we'll see if there ends up being an injury with him and they come back Thursday or what the deal is there. I don't think anyone asked Bruce about it today, so we'll monitor that one and see how it goes moving forward. I mean, Hainsey looked fine when he played the other day, honestly, and he looks like his body's gotten better. The only funny thing, I mean, Scott, his legs are still just not very big. Like, he just has very small legs for a lineman. I haven't noticed him getting knocked around or his anchor at center being poor.
I know, yes.
His technically seems pretty good.
I haven't either. And it's funny you say that, because I remember Caleb Benenoch when he was drafted by the Bucs out of UCLA, very thin-hipped, kind of lanky legs, twiggy legs.
He was a high-cut dude.
Very high-cut. And he had a very hard time anchoring. And they tried him at guard, they tried him at tackle, and I think he's out of the league now. I expected Hainsey, especially at center, right, going, taking on double teams and
squatty leveraged guys inside.
Right. I expected him to have more of a challenge. He get blown up in the backfield. I just haven't seen it yet, though. I mean, to his credit, he's really kind of held his own, and that's encouraging, because if he's doing well enough right now with his current frame, when he has an entire off season in an NFL weight training program, I think he's going to change his body very much like Alex Kappa did, going from that leaner tackle body that he was a couple of years ago coming in from Humboldt to really transitioning to that guard body and having like the big thighs and the big butt and having a lot more power in that lower torso to help anchor against the pass rushers.
Yeah, there has been like no rhyme or reason physically, athletically to what the Bucs have done and the offensive line in terms of drafting. Like, they've taken guys with like Marpet, who has a great body, but small school guy. They've taken guys with huge athletes like Donovan Smith, but don't necessarily have the cleanest body. Tristan Wirfs, a freak, great body, all the way around. Alex Kappa was just like, you looked at him and the big number one thing was, I don't even know if he has a body that can play in the NFL, and it took 3 years, but now he does. And it's all about mentality at that position for the Bucs right now. So it's interesting to always kind of note that.
It's also about agility though, too, because right now with those 5 current starters, all of them have played left tackle in college. Now, Tristan Wirfs played mostly right, but he also started several games at left when there was injuries. And we know he's an athletic freak, right? I mean, whether he plays left side or right side, he is an athletic freak. But you go back to Northern Colorado with Jensen, Humboldt State with Kappa, Ali Marpet was a left tackle at Hobart College. Donovan Smith was left tackle for Penn State. So Jason Light's got 5 left tackles from college playing as his starting offensive line right now.
Right. Hey, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, Scott, is the best and easiest place to play fantasy football for big cash prizes. On Underdog Fantasy, you just draft. There's no need to worry about waivers, lineups, or injuries. Underdog handles it all for you. You can go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app, draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. There's no in-season management. They're going to give you $25 when you sign up, so you can take a free shot at a $1 million grand prize in their fantasy football tournament. $1 million grand prize. Their Best Ball Mania is going on right now. It is an unbelievable deal because you get a free $25 in bonus cash on Underdog Fantasy if you use the promo code Pewter. So get in there, get your free $25 in there, and get a chance to win all this money. You can go over to underdogfantasy.com. It's easy to use. The mobile app is slick. It's very user-friendly. It's I'm a big aesthetic guy. I'm a big user-friendly guy. I think the
website. Yes.
It's a great looking website, and it's easy. It's so simple. I think the Yahoo layout sometimes gets me like, what is going on here? And I mean, all of the fantasy football sites I've had that struggle with. I love the layout at Underdog Fantasy. It's one of my favorite things about it. So join the league, draft a team. You're good to go for the season. These best ball leagues are the way to go. The in-season management tires me out, frankly, to be honest.
Me too.
All the time when you have a million fantasy
I want to draft one team in August and just set it and forget it. That's
what you can do, Scott. They'll pull your best scores from your best players every single week. You don't have to worry about setting your lineup or adding people off waivers or anything. They'll just pull your best scores every week. So it's all about your draft. UnderdogFantasy.com, the App Store, the Google Play Store. Sign up with the code Pewter, PEWTER, and get that $25 in free bonus cash credit over at Underdog Fantasy. All right, now we got to talk about it, Scott, because I know people are tired of it. They don't want to hear it anymore. But I think it's at the point where we just need to start discussing Tyler Johnson in earnest. I'm not saying he's going to lose his spot on the team or anything like that. Right. I've been bringing this up for going back to minicamp, that it's harder than people think to find him a spot on game days, at least. And now you kind of came in and said today you're not sure that his spot on the roster is a lock either. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I don't think it's a lock, because when you look at the special teams value, he's got to really be a special teams ace. That's what kept Justin Watson on this team last year and in years past. It wasn't really his ability to catch the ball. And so I think he comes into camp with a little bit of a strike against him, not being in shape. Yeah. And we haven't really seen him. Yeah, he made a nice one-handed catch the other day. He's done well. But the problem is this wide receiver group is so deep in terms of talent. Mm-hmm. Right. And this guy right here is going to take the spot, in my opinion. That's the guy.
That's Jaelon where Darden. I see the shuffling happening right now, Scott.
Yes,
like
Jaelon Darden is going to take the number 5 wide receiver spot. And you got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller. Number 5 is going to be Jaelon Darden.
And here's the tricky part now is Tyler Johnson hasn't been bad in camp. Yes, I know he showed up and he wasn't where they wanted him to be conditioning wise, and he was out of shape, and he's admitted it, and Arians has said it. But like, he's done well. I mean, I read the practice reports from you guys before I got there to training camp this year when I was up in PA. I was reading them and I was seeing reports, the good stuff for sure. And when the 2 days I've been there, he's been great. He's caught everything thrown his way. He's been impressive. He's getting open. But Darden has been more impressive. Jaden Mickens has been more impressive. And that's not a knock on Tyler Johnson. That's just how good this room is. And those guys are also impact players on special teams. They've done other things on special teams. Mickens has been a gunner. He's been a return guy. He offers those kinds of things. It's just hard on game days. I'm not saying he's not going to make the roster. It presents challenges on game days. And when if Darden is out playing Tyler Johnson at receiver and you'd rather have him on the field on offense, then your 5 are set. Your 6th guy is special teams. If Mickens is a gunner and Tyler Johnson can't do squat on special teams, you know what I'm saying? They're going to keep 7 receivers. And Mickens is going to be the 6th guy that's active, if that's the case. Yeah. I mean, Tyler Johnson hasn't even gotten a crack at being a gunner, Scott. Like that, they haven't even put him in that position. They don't think he can do it.
Well, he's not that fast. I mean, what he has to do is be on the punt coverage team, but really as either personal protector or somebody, one of those inline guys like on the wing. And can he do that, right? Can he run down on kickoffs and make tackles? I mean, those are some things Justin Watson did and did well. So I've got some reservations about that. Again, it's not like Tyler Johnson has done anything wrong. It's just that this is a very deep thing. And I'll tell you that the name that's kind of been buzzing a little bit in training camp from kind of like a sleeper perspective at wide receiver has been Travis Johnson. Yeah, this is a player
no question
that the Bucs like because of his practice squad ability. Now that might seem a little funny, right? And maybe Travis Johnson's destined for the practice squad again, but for their scout team last year, I mean, he's a very athletic big guy. When they were game planning for Taysom Hill as that gimmick quarterback, when the Saints had Drew Brees at quarterback and they would run the Taysom Hill package, it kind of caught the Bucs, burned him a couple times in the season. Travis Johnson was the guy that was doing that wildcat quarterback. So they like his versatility in that role. This is going to pain me to say this, but Cyril Grayson's had a pretty good training camp, John.
No, come on. I wasn't even going to put this on you because I've been there 2 days and he was one of the guys that didn't make. He messed up a route. Brady chewed him out on Monday, and then today he was not play. He didn't participate because of a hamstring, I think Arians said.
Well,
I wasn't even going to put that out there, but before the week I missed, he was good then.
Well, yeah.
He was okay.
Yeah.
That pains you to say it.
It pains me to say it. Yes, it does. But here's the thing. And you said it in our Peter Report group text. Arians can't quit Cyril Grayson.
Okay, and then Blaine Gabbert, those two.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a thing for Grayson and his track speed. He's a track guy at LSU. And yes, I mean, he tried to catch a football with his face mask against the Panthers last year. It didn't quite work out. That's kind of what caused my scorn for Cyril Grayson. Not going to lie. But the thing is John, I mean, he's fast. He's a project. He's somebody that is like a little pet project for Arians. And I think Travis Johnson's in that mold too. And what can Tyler Johnson do to stand out? I think that's the thing. What can he do to stand out and differentiate himself? He's doing all the things right, but Johnson can bring more from a size standpoint and kind of a matchup standpoint on the scout team in practice. There's value in that. Cyril Grayson has speed that neither Tyler Johnson nor Travis Johnson have. So right now, unfortunately, where Tyler Johnson has stood out is not in a good way. He's came to camp a little heavy and he's a little sluggish, and he's caught the ire of Bruce Arians. When Bruce Arians chews you out in a press conference, and he wasn't chewing him out, I shouldn't say that, but it mentions you in a
sending a
negative
message,
way. Not a good, sending a message, right. That's right.
And this is hard because Tyler Johnson has been good. Again, I want to repeat that. He has been good. He has made really good catches. You saw even on the Bucs Twitter, I think a one-handed catch he made the day before I got back. I mean, he has been kind of what you hoped he would be as a player on the field. Last year was, considering his role and the amount of reps he could, it was about as good as you could have hoped he would play when he got the opportunities to play last season. And I think on any other wide receiver room in the league, it isn't a question with Tyler Johnson. I really do. I think he could
3 or a 4 right now.
Right. But I mean, you have clearly Scotty Miller's ahead of him. The top 3 are ahead of him. Scotty Miller is going to play more.
He's number 4.
Jaelon Darden has been awesome. Like, that's the biggest problem for Tyler Johnson right now, because Watson got hurt and it's like, okay, now Tyler Johnson should be safe. And Jaelon Darden just is stacking good practices, and he can do more things, right? He can play inside or outside. He can get vertical. He's faster than Tyler Johnson. He's made plays outside of his frame. He's beaten top competition. He's obviously got the return guy. He's also got the kind of slip screen ability that they've used Antonio Brown since adding him. They kind of added that to their offense second half of last year. Darden gives you that and make people miss elusiveness. Tyler Johnson doesn't really give you that as much. If Godwin got hurt, Tyler Johnson's playing a ton. I mean, if Godwin got hurt, Tyler Johnson would all of a sudden jump in. Right. He would jump in and he would play more than he might play more than Scotty and Darden in that game. That's just the way that it goes and rolls. But until that happens, because they have more guys now that can play the slot than they had Bruce Arians first year. Remember, Mike Evans didn't really play the slot. Now he will. Antonio Brown wasn't there. Now he could play the slot some. Darden could play inside if you need it. So now there's more options, and it kind of makes it, okay, well, we're not using Chris Godwin in the slot 100% of the time. Now we're using him there 50, 60% of the time, and we're cycling through other people. And if he got hurt, we'd still put our best 3 on the field, and it's not a big deal if we have Tyler Johnson active. So there's just a lot to consider. And
the thing, too, with Jaelon Darden, when you look at his frame, right, he's not as big as Antonio Brown. I think he's 5'8", Brown's 5'10". Darden's in the 170s, Brown's in the 190s. But his play style is very reminiscent of Antonio Brown. He can do some Antonio Brown things in terms of short area quickness, make you miss.
Correct.
And he's got some sneaky speed. He is not as fast as Scotty Miller. I think that Jaelon Darden falls in between Antonio Brown and Scotty Miller because he's got some elements of both of those guys. And I think that's what's special. That's what's making him stand out is I think vertical speed wise, Miller is faster, but Darden can still do that for the Buccaneers.
Right. And Tony says, Scotty is a one-trick player and Johnson is more versatile. I get that, Tony, and I'm not necessarily saying that you're wrong, but what Scotty does is as valuable as anything that a player can do on the NFL field because he is one of the fastest players in the league. Yes. I know because he's white, people aren't going to say that, but
yes,
that's
in
the
this
truth.
offense, that is valuable. I mean,
right.
Arians puts a big emphasis on that value, and I think that's a big reason why Darden kind of checked that box too. It's not 4.3 speed, but it's 4.4 speed, and that's another guy that kind of fits that vertical element that Arians like in the receiver.
Right. It's just the value of what he does. I mean, Scotty per play, per target, just was a big impact player, and it's that is just harder to replicate. That the value of that is harder to replicate another player, which is why I think he's not in question. And also, Scotty looks improved as a route runner. I don't want to get too into it because I need to see more reps. We've hardly seen any reps from the top four guys. Like it's been Darden has gotten a ton of reps. Tyler Johnson's gotten a ton of reps. Johnson, Pearson, all those guys have gotten a lot. Grayson, a lot of reps for Mickens for those guys in the top four have been pretty. It's been pretty quiet, but today Scotty made some great plays, runs some great routes too. I think he's becoming John, more of a complete player.
From what I've seen too, and we'll see how the rest of camp goes, and we'll see what they do in the preseason, but it almost seems like now that Brady has a year in this offense, that we're not going to see as much of Godwin and AB and Evans. And I think Bruce Arians smartly recognizes a 17-game schedule is on the horizon. And not to burn through these guys in August. They're veterans. They've been there. They've done that for guys like Godwin and Evans. This is year 3 in the system. They know it. AB, this will be his first full year, but he's got some root knowledge from the Pittsburgh days in this system, and he's a smart player. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these days, John, where we're going to see that the Tyler Johnsons, the Dardens going at it, more of the back end of the roster competing, especially in offense. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, let's not burn rubber here in August when it doesn't count. Save it for September through December when it does.
Right. And I think the Bucs have one of the best teams in the league, both the last 2 years. I think they're the best team in the league the last 2 years, both years under Arians, in terms of players lost, like man games of players lost or something like that, the amount of games they've lost total from starters per Football Outsiders. And some of that's luck, but some of it is also because Bruce Arians completely bought it on sports science and he knows how to manage these guys. It's unusual. It is, Scott, watching a practice and seeing so many starters out all the time. And Levante David's missed 4 of the last 5 days or something like that. Like, Godwin missed 2 days back to back, and he says it's just maintenance days. You know, they're on the turf today, and he doesn't want Levante on the turf, and so he just doesn't practice. But man, they won a Super Bowl last year with less time than they'll get together this year. So I'm not going to argue with that process. And they've obviously kept people healthy, and that's the biggest thing. So, but if it works again this year, teams are going to start to take notice, and there's going to be a lot of changes around the league because I think the Bucs do more physical management of their players than other teams necessarily do. And they really preserve. They haven't done any live tackling.
Great point.
Steelers have been hitting for a week.
That's a great point, John. And I think the thing too is, for as old school as Arians is, right? And the man is close to 70, right? For as old school as he is, he's very open-minded when it comes to things like sports science. And like, if you can change his mind, like, he'll listen. If you can change his mind, he'll do it. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a very admirable quality, because I tell you, especially as coaches get older, they resist change, it seems, right? But Bruce Arians has been a guy that's really embraced it, and it's really paid dividends for the Bucs.
For sure. Good question here from Bucs Time 12. Has Darden played slot or outside? It has been mostly outside. Bucs Time 12. He has played a little bit in the slot, but you are mostly going to see Jalen Darden as an outside receiver in this offense with the occasional kick inside. You know, there'll be a handful of snaps in there, just like there is for AB, even Scotty on occasion, Evans, right. You'll see guys move around more and more this year than even before. Last year, we saw it more than we did the year before. And this year, you'll see it even more. Adjustments mean moving guys around and asking guys to do things from different positions. Everybody's going to learn different spots, but Darden will start primarily as an outside guy, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, John, we talked about Bruce Arians' press conference, and he talked about Ryan Suckup, not having a great start to training camp. There's a story up on PewterReport.com. I'll let you all read that. I don't think the alarm bells are going off just yet. This is a big time veteran. They re-signed him for 4 years. So,
I'm nervous.
Well, listen, I think Ryan Suckup did a fantastic job last year. I did not jinx the man at all, right? He was perfect in the preseason in terms of field goals. So I'm going to continue to talk about him because obviously it worked last year. But one of the things that really, caught my eye was a really good quote from Bruce Arians on Todd Bowles, right? This guy is just a defensive mastermind. And John, I'll let you read this, but he goes on to really just talk about specifically what makes Bowles special as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he said, I think it starts with individual teaching. He can pick guys out that he knows is going to help him and what their deficiencies are as far as learning or whatever. How do they study film? He'll bring them in at 5:30 in the morning individually, or maybe 2 or 3 to teach them how to watch film. His expertise in defense is outstanding. He knows everything. He's seen everything. He's done everything. So the X's and O's part, that's probably the easier part for him. It's fitting all the pieces together on guys. What can this guy do? What can that guy do? Where can I create mismatches? And that was Arians on defensive coordinator Todd Bowles. And it's interesting because we wouldn't necessarily have said, it hasn't been said, and it shouldn't have been said really about Todd Bowles over the years. As many good things has been said about him. One of the things has not really been that he is a guy that, as you just described with Arians, somebody that changes very easily. He's very stubborn and he's very consistent with what he does. And then when he finally kind of accepted we got to do something different in the playoffs, it changed everything. And so we are still in the process of learning what the Bucs defense will look like this year. Will it look like it did last year? Will he play more to the strengths of his young secondary? I thought that yesterday was kind of another example of they have really, and I said this on yesterday's podcast too, Scott. I don't know if you got a chance to hear. I said this to Matt. I said, it just feels like the Bucs have like a lot of difference makers at safety right now. And figuring out how to get more of those guys on the field is going to be an adventure, right? Especially if Ross Cockrell can do multiple things now. He made another play today, Scott, that I'm starting to get like a little bit like, you just don't see this. I always love watching free safeties in practices. He made an unbelievable play. He's the too high safety, and he's coming all the way across the field, and he's making a play on the ball, and he got clotheslined. He knew he was gonna. It was a big collision. It was kind of scary for a moment. He jumped right back up, but just still got his hand up there, made an unbelievable play on the ball. He just feels like he's seeing everything really clearly right now and making great breaks on the ball. And it's just like, okay, how do we get him on can he play safety in a game? Like as a start, like, what do you want to do? Like, there's just like a lot of options right now, and feels like getting Mike Edwards and him on the field. And then I was saying this yesterday, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, because Matt was like, just pump the brakes a little bit. But I watched Jamel Dean again today, and it's hard, man. He's just not always engaged, really. He feels like he gets fooled at the top of routes a lot. I know Tyler Johnson got that one-handed touchdown against him the other day. He was, a couple guys have beat him over the last 2 days in one-on-ones and in team sessions. I'm not like throwing Jamel Dean out or anything. He's very, very talented. It just feels like it's not quite consistent with him, and I wonder if there's a path to, okay, SMB, are just going to play outside. Carlton, you're one outside. When we go to nickel, Winfield, you're in the slot, or Cockrell, you're in the slot, and Edwards, you're deep, and Whitehead, you're at strong safety, or you know what I mean? It feels like there's other ways to get maybe your best guys on the field if Dean's struggling.
The interesting thing is Dean kind of reminds me a little bit of Brian Kelly, the former Bucs cornerback, in the fact that whether the secondary consisted of, and I'm talking to the old school Bucs fans now, if the secondary consisted of Donnie Abraham, Rondé Barber, and Brian Kelly, Donnie Abraham and Brian Kelly, or I should say Rondé Barber and Donnie Abraham, were the playmakers. And Brian Kelly was the steady Eddie. He was the guy that, except for the Super Bowl year when he had 8 interceptions to lead the Bucs and the NFC that season. But the reason why he had interceptions is because the year before, Rondé Barber had 10 interceptions to lead the Bucs and the NFC. And teams were just simply not throwing Barber's way because they didn't want a pick or a pick six. So Kelly got a lot more opportunities. And but Brian Kelly was not the dynamic playmaker that guys like Donnie and Rondé were. And even when Donnie left in the Super Bowl year, and Dwight Smith was that other guy we saw in the Super Bowl itself, Dwight Smith can be a big-time playmaker and a ball hawk. And so I think that's the next step for – I think that's the next step for Jamel Dean. And I asked him about this in the conference call the other day. He had one big play last year in terms of a pick six. That was against the Packers. It was a monumental play. That was the only interception he had the entire season.
And he dropped a couple against the Bears. Remember,
he dropped
4.
Yeah, right. So I think that's going to be the next step for him, because you can't celebrate the PBUs, right? That's one thing I learned from Mike Tomlin. It's like when he came in 2001, John, I think you've heard of Mike Tomlin, right? He was the defensive backs coach down here in Tampa. Right?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. So he comes to Tampa and he says, listen, stop celebrating pass breakups, because you're celebrating a dropped interception. Like, knock it off. Okay. That was 2001. What happened next year, John? They won the Super Bowl. How'd they win the Super Bowl? Because they had 31 interceptions that season. Now, Derek Brooks had 5 of them, by himself.
Right.
But that's still an awful lot of interceptions in that secondary.
Right.
And that's got to be the key. We saw that Carlton Davis take that step, right, from 1 interception 2 years ago to 4 last year. And even Carlton dropped his share. He's not the most gifted ball hawking guy. But Sean Murphy-Bunting, yes, and Sean Murphy-Bunting is taking steps. We saw 3 interceptions and a pick six as a rookie. He had a wealth of injuries last year, but in the postseason, he added 3 to the 1 he had, and he ended up with 4. So I'm with you, John. The long answer is, listen, if Ross Cockrell, Mike Edwards, if they're making plays on the ball, if they're creating takeaways, you got to find a way to get him on the field. Maybe Sean Murphy-Bunting's outside and Ross Cockrell's the inside in the slot, and Jamel Dean's on the bench if he's not making plays. Maybe that's what ultimately happens. I think Dean's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He'll start early on, but listen, this is year 3 for Jamel Dean. The light bulb's got to come on. He's got to become a playmaker, and he can't get fooled by play action and biting on head fakes and getting redirected with quarterback's eyes.
Right, exactly right. So I think it's just we need to just have an eye on Dean. We haven't talked about that being a open competition. Right. I think there's paths where he could play poorly enough to get himself out of the starting lineup, even by week 1. So we'll see what happens. Also, I want to see how much run he gets in preseason. I want to see that'll tell us a lot about whether they think he needs to be tested more and they need to see more from him if he plays a lot in the preseason, if he's playing in the second half of a couple preseason games. You know what I mean? So. And in some ways, you need to see more of Dean than you do Cockrell. You know what Cockrell is. He's like the opposite of Dean. He's steady and reliable, but he's got no real physical or athletic traits that get you super excited.
Right.
So you don't really need to see Cockrell play that much. Maybe at safety, you want to see him in a game a little bit, but Dean's the guy I think you really need to see play some. So he's going to be definitely one to watch throughout the preseason.
Agreed.
So I guess that kind of covers the main topics for today. You touched on Suckup very quickly. I won't add anything to what you're saying because he went 4 of 6 or 5 of 7 today. Greg and I were having a debate about which it was. We could not remember, but either way, he missed 2 kicks and we made his last 2 and they were monster kicks. He nailed them both. So that was a good way to close it out. Bruce was honest. He hasn't been that impressive so far, I think, but I think he's not worried about it yet either. So we'll see what happens. Long way to go until we got to worry about Ryan Suckup. Let's focus on other things for now. So it's been 2 good days of practice. So I think today they got better as a younger group. A lot of younger guys playing today. It felt a little more like the rookie mini camps. And I think Thursday when they get back out there, you'll see some of the vets return to action after some of them will get now a couple days off. Because
you know what? I wrote about this on my Fab Five, and I got to say it here on the podcast. This is going to be a fun preseason. Usually no one hates preseason games more than this guy right here. Right? I've seen too many of them in Tampa Bay. Usually in Tampa, they come with a lightning or rain delay, right? So,
get home at 3 a.m.
Yeah, not an ideal way to spend a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. Thankfully, they're all on Saturday nights this year. But gosh, John, this year we're going to see Kyle Trask. We're going to see Anthony Nelson and Joe Tryon. We're going to see Jaelon Darden. We're going to see Ross Cockrell. We're going to see Tyler Johnson. We're going to see Sneak Vaughn. We're going to see a lot of guys that are really showing out in training camp and just showing how deep this team is. I think the biggest takeaway for me as the grizzled old vet on Peter Report that's been here for 26 years is this team is by far, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches in terms of how deep this team is. Cody McElroy is fighting for the 4th string safety spot. He's looked as good to where he could be a number 3 in other teams easy, right? Tanner Hudson could be a number 3 easy. tight end. But the number 3 tight end on this team is Cam Brate, who could easily be a number 2 elsewhere.
Or a starter in some places.
Or a starter in some places, yes. John, this team is way deeper than the Bucs Super Bowl team of 2002/2003. I mean, it is. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
We can sit there and debate starter for starter, which is the better Bucs team. There are 2 different eras, right? 2002, 2020. That's a fight for another day. But what is undisputed is this Bucs team, by far. And hats off to you, Jason Light and Bruce Arians and John Spytek and the scouts. This Bucs team is crazy deep at so many positions. And we touched on quarterback, John. That's one of them. I mean,
yeah, it's amazing watching practice. It honestly is, because everywhere you look, you're just like, I mean, it could be 3 days. You haven't even thought about Scotty Miller. You're like, oh, right. Scotty Miller. Forgot they have him too. Like,
John, at Monday's practice, you asked me, you said, I read all the reports, who's not looking good? And my answer was like, everybody's got looking good. I mean, guys like Cameron Kinley and Nate Brooks and stuff, those are guys that are like super fringe and aren't going to make it. But I mean, when we're talking about like the star of training camp on defense being Ross Cockrell, right? The 4th cornerback, the emergency safety. I mean, but it's just a tribute to Jason Light and this organization for flooding several positions, right? I mean, we haven't talked about Sneak Vaughn, Rojo, Leonard Fournette. You've got Giovanni Bernard, and then you got Keyshawn Vaughn, who's played really well and had a very good camp, and he's the 4th string running back. So
I mean, Gronk, I don't think I know he didn't practice today, but I don't think we mentioned him for like 3 days, because it's just not, he doesn't happen to get a target that day, like whatever, and so it's been very quiet for he and OJ Howard lately, and we'll see that. I'm sure that'll change as the week goes on. We'll be talking about them again.
You know what's ridiculous, John, is this team last year had 1 Pro Bowler, Jason Pierre-Paul. They won the Super Bowl, 1 Pro Bowler, and it's just crazy. Now that's going to change this year. This is going to be a pure Pro Bowl. There's going to be like 6 or 7 Buccaneer Pro Bowlers, as there should be. The Bucs kind of caught some.
Just shows you how ridiculous the award is, because they could be worse this year. They could play worse, and they had more guys going to Pro Bowl because they just won a Super Bowl, and it's just a garbage process. Meanwhile, the guy that went to the Pro Bowl, no disrespect to JPP, but he's not even like top 10 player on the team. So anyway, it's just it's fair. Crazy. No, I think that you bring up a good point, and what I'm going to write about tomorrow in Bucs briefing is Jaelon Darden and the emergence of what's happening here and how we should be handling it, because there's a tendency to want to react strongly when I think it's been this good and this consistent too. He's gotten better, I think, as he's faced better competition. That is really a great sign to me, as I've scouted players, that when that happens, I tend to go, let's go, like jump all in. And so just kind of talking about where we should be on him and how we should temper ourselves moving forward a little bit, and where his place in the wide receiver room could be this year and then beyond, what the future could look like for him. So that'll be tomorrow. Bucs briefing will be coming out. It'll be on Wednesdays from now on, by the way, if you were looking for Bucs briefing today, it'll be on Wednesday. So you'll have that to look forward to tomorrow.
John?
Yes.
This right here from Max.
Max wants to know, Rick Wagner, Russell Okun, DeMar Dotson still available. What are the chances that we sign another tackle as an insurance? Tackle is the only position we're thin, in my opinion.
That's probably true. It
really depends on what you think of Josh Wells. I mean, the team really likes him. Clearly, they keep re-signing him. So the team probably doesn't agree with us. I tend to agree with Max that if somebody got hurt, I wouldn't want Josh Wells starting this season at all. So I'd look at one of those guys, especially Russell Okun.
Brad Seaton's just a guy. He's the 4th string tackle. He's just a guy. So.
Right, for sure. So tomorrow, Bucs briefing will be out. There'll be no podcast tomorrow, okay? We will have podcasts Thursday and Friday. Thursday at 4 p.m., Friday at 8 p.m. We'll do a special night podcast to recap this kind of second week of training camp practices.
No practice tomorrow.
Right, no practice tomorrow, so no podcast tomorrow. Practice and podcast on Thursday, podcast at 4 p.m. Practice and podcast on Friday at 8 p.m. will be the podcast on Friday. Also keep in mind and remember, football returns and live game action on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Hall of Fame game. I think the Cowboys are playing a team that used to be really, really good, the Steelers. Maybe
Steelers.
I have to slander my own team before y'all get to it. That's
man.
Anyway, not many starters will be playing in that game, but hey, it's going to be football, and I I can't freaking wait. Every
Yeah.
single year, dude. Can't wait. I mean, yeah, 5 plays into the Hall of Fame game, I'll be like, wow, this sucks. But
Right.
before it starts, yeah, I'm going to be amped up and excited. So it's going to be fun. So we'll be back out of practice on Thursday and Friday, and we'll have pods both of those days. Obviously, we're 11 days from the Bucs' first preseason game. And Mitch wants to make sure we don't forget about our friends over at Manscaped.
We can't do that, John. Can't do that.
Not today, Mitch. Or was it today? I don't know. We did it yesterday.
We can do it today.
You want to talk? All right, let's talk about them. Here we go. We got some giveaways with it, maybe.
We do. That's why we're going to talk about it. Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah.
Good
so
reminder.
Here's the thing. John's going to talk about Manscaped. I'm going to tell you before and at the end that I'm giving away more Pewter Report t-shirts, right? It's that time. So if you want a Pewter Report t-shirt, all you have to do is purchase the Manscaped product and then email me your receipt at sr@pewterreport.com. And it's not going to have any of your financial information. Don't want it, don't need it, but it's going to have your address, which I do need because I got to send you the shirt. So it's a free shirt, no shipping and handling. We're just going to ship it to you. Just thanks to you for being a Manscaped supporter. And as John and I are, we use Manscaped. It's not just something we promote. We believe in the product. Mm-hmm. I never would have believed in it if they didn't send it to me for free. Got to be honest. That's honest disclaimer. But damn, it's a hell of a product.
Yeah,
and it works, and it's fantastic. And I'm wearing the Manscaped boxer briefs right now, which I'm not going to show you. But
thank you.
But they're very comfortable. The most comfortable pair of boxers I have.
They are. They absolutely are. And I wear them on special occasions all the time because I'm a nerd like that. But no, it's great. I mean, the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 comes with really everything. I mean, you've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, waterproof. Yes, there it is. Waterproof. Look at the light on that thing.
Yeah.
I know it sounds loud because he's holding it by a mic, but it's actually very quiet. And it's great. No nicks or scratches, anything like that. It's just very clean, very smooth shave. It's very comfortable. That's like the main thing with Manscaped to me. It's just they perfect the technology to make sure it's as comfortable and efficient as possible. You got the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. That's a clutch get. That comes in very handy for sure. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, the Crop Reviver Toner, the Performance Boxer Briefs, by the way, that Scott mentioned, and the travel bag to hold your goodies. Those things, by the way, the Preserver and the Reviver, they smell amazing. It's all terrific stuff. I mean, honestly, Manscaped kind of thinks of everything. They've got a travel lock so your battery doesn't run out if it actually flips on in your backpack. They've got the lock so that doesn't happen. It's all really great stuff. There's the travel bag. And at 20% off plus the free shipping with that promo code Pewter, PEWTER. I mean, you're getting a great deal. You're getting 20% off. You're changing your relationship. You're getting this Manscaped package, Performance Package 4.0. You're getting free shipping. You're getting a Pewter Report shirt. It's a great gift. If you're getting it as a gift for somebody else, you can keep the shirt for yourself. I mean, there's just a million different. It's the best deal. I really think it's one of the best deals we got going.
Totally agree.
And Manscaped's got their own deals going on all the time too over on manscaped.com. So check it out, click around, see different things you want, check out some of the products. It is game changer stuff. Scott and I both love it. Everybody we talk to loves it. Everybody we've given gifts to loves it. I've never heard anybody say a negative thing about it. It's terrific stuff. So do that. And also subscribe to our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. Hit the like button on our videos. Told you this yesterday. You guys are the main way that our YouTube channel grows. You've been great since training camp started. Keep spreading the word as you get excited about Bucs season starting in 11 days with the preseason game. Tell friends, families, loved ones, hey, check out the Pewter Report podcast. If you're into the Bucs, check these guys out. They give great training camp recaps. They bring up great topics on the show. They're fun. They're engaging. They're good looking. They're, and if you believe those things, don't lie. But if you believe those things, let people know, spread the word, do what you can to help us grow because you all are the main way that we do that and we grow on this channel. So Thursday, next podcast is Thursday at 4 p.m., Friday at 8 p.m., another podcast. That'll wrap up our week, so make sure you're tuned in for those ones. Until then, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.